Milam lifted his head up off his steepled fingers and said, "I was just thinking about my grandfather. I don't think I ever told you, but he was a corpsman in the Pacific in WW2. Yaz nodded. Family tradition of service in the Navy. No, Coast Guard, but a Coast Guard combat unit. Yaz searched his memory. They crewed a lot of the ships and landing boats, right? Got the Marines ashore. Milam nodded. Yeah. One of them, a Coast Guard signalman first class, was awarded the Medal of Honor. He was commanding a group of Higgins boats, evacuating a Marine battalion trapped by a larger Japanese force. He put his own boat between the Japanese and the Marines on the beach to shield them and draw fire, and didn't leave until they all got out. And he was killed by machine gun fire. Yaz just nodded, solemn and respectful. Anyway, my grandfather didn't win any medals, but he did survive 6 frontline beach invasions in the island-hopping campaign, which is an awful lot of bullets and shrapnel that, if they'd gone a few inches to one side, would mean you'd be bunking with someone else right now. Yaz just nodded again. It was so unlikely any of them were there. Milam smiled. He was sometimes assigned to a team that went ashore to clear the beaches ahead of the main landing force. He used to leave little notes for the Marines to find when they arrived, like, "Welcome ashore, enjoy your beach vacation." Yaz smiled in turn. But it was pretty damn dangerous being a corpsman in the Pacific. Yeah. The first thing they did was remove their Red Cross insignia, as the Japanese specifically targeted them. They knew that for every medic they took down, a lot of Marines would die, bleeding out in the sand. Yaz, Milam, and their fellow Sarks were all descended from precisely those guys. It was a hell of a lineage. Milam kept talking quietly. And while the medics in the European theater were never armed, they issued my grandpa an M3 submachine gun to protect himself and his patients. He had to use it more than once. Good old grease gun, Yaz said. 45 cal. Milam took his phone out of his pocket and swiped around until he found what he was looking for. When he turned the screen to face Yaz, it displayed a scan of an old crinkled black-and-white photo showing a jumbled tropical beach scene with a wounded Marine sitting in the background, bandage wrapped around his leg. In the foreground stood a tall and thin young man, shirtless, with a K-bar knife hanging from his belt, wearing a steel pot helmet, from under which his serious expression and dark eyes were shadowed. He was maybe 19 or 20 years old. Most conspicuously, he had a pipe in his mouth, which he was cupping with both hands and lighting with a silver lighter. It was a hell of a photo. Priceless, really. Wow, Yaz said. That pipe. Yeah, his trademark. Years later, other WW2 veterans would only recognize him once he took the pipe out. Kinda like your bandana. How'd he get so thin? Milam laughed. I asked him that once. He said you were running around all day and too scared to eat. He also said the reason the photos and footage from the landing showed them racing off the boats all gung-ho was because everyone was seasick. After hours of circling around waiting for the boats to marshal, they were happy to run into bullets or mortars just to get on solid ground. Yaz laughed again and handed the phone back. Incredible. Yeah, but try telling him that. Whenever I did or thanked him for saving civilization in the 20th century, he just shrugged and said, it was nothing. Milam swiped again to another photo, this one showing the same young man, but now wearing a crackerjack Class A uniform of dark blue with white piping, triangular flap and rolled kerchief around his neck with ribbons on his left breast. His head was bare this time, showing thick and wavy black hair. But his dark eyes had the same serious and sober expression, 1,000 yards deep. This was a young man aged beyond his years. Sitting beside him was a beautiful, striking young woman, wearing pearls and a dress with scattered sequins and décolletage, with blonde hair up off her forehead in a 40s hairstyle. She was smiling, but also looked serious. They were probably only 22, but both looked more grown up than Yaz thought he would ever feel. Your grandmother, Yaz said. Yeah, Milam said, taking the phone back. They got married when he was on shore leave. She was disabled, though don't try calling her that. Had polio when she was a girl, one leg 3 inches shorter than the other, an arm that hardly worked. But she never let it slow her down. Never used a walker, never mind a wheelchair, and barely used her cane. And Grandpa never left her side for over 50 years. I can't imagine that, Yaz said. Milam shrugged. It was his place, where he belonged. After the war, they got a little prefab crackerjack house in Levittown, PA with a tiny yard, and 3 kids and 7 grandchildren. Grandpa spent his later years volunteering with the Boy Scouts and was active in veterans associations. That's all they needed. I think they were just grateful to have survived the war